afternoon, everybody. If I could have your please, welcome to chapel, welcome to our guests. As you know, we have hit May in the final month of our academic year. We will conclude our senior speeches next week at chapel and then have our Kent Davis Oratory Contest on May 16th. The following week will be filled with the many events related to our upcoming commencement ceremony on the last Friday of May. Today we have a special event honoring Suffield Academy alumni who have gone on to have distinguished professional careers marked by leadership in their communities. The program is organized each year by our Alumni and Development Office, represented today by Mr. Pistol. He will give an overview about today's program, and then Ms. Yeager and I will introduce this year's recipient of our Alumni Leadership Award, Brett Biani. Adam.
Thank you, Mr. Can, and good afternoon, everyone. It is my pleasure to welcome you to Suffield Academy's Alumni Leadership Day ceremony. It's incredibly fitting that a school that places such emphasis on teaching leadership skills honors alums who have made a significant impact on the world, both within and beyond our community. The Alumni Leadership Awards were created by the Suffield Academy Alumni Association to recognize graduates for outstanding leadership in their professional fields or communities. Nominations are solicited from members of the Suffield Academy community, and then the selection committee reviews and researches the nominations that we receive. The first awards were given in 2003, and I encourage you to read the biographies of the past recipients on Suffield's website. You can't help but be inspired by both the magnitude and diversity of the accomplishments of the Suffield Academy women and men who received this award. This special event was created to bring our community together to celebrate the remarkable contributions of some of Suffield Academy's most exceptional leaders and to invite them back to campus to share their experiences and insights with you. This year, our nominee doesn't have to return to campus, as you can find him here every day. We are thrilled to be honoring longtime faculty member and Suffield alum, Brett Biani. You will hear more about Mr. Biani's tremendous career at Suffield from Mr. Can and Ms. Yeager shortly, but one thing is certain. Mr. Biani's presence in the classroom and on the fields, where you can see how much working with students means to him, is irreplaceable. And the impact of the legacy he leaves behind when he retires this year will remain for years to come. Thank you.
Mr. Can asked me to speak briefly about Mr. Biani's contributions in the classroom. Of course, I immediately agreed. But as I thought about what I wanted to share, I knew I had to take some poetic liberties, because I realized that I couldn't speak about Mr. Biani in the classroom without speaking about Mr. Biani, the person. Brett Biani is a man of infinite kindness, wisdom, and tiger pride. Simply noting his 42-year teaching commitment to Suffield demonstrates his selfless devotion to young people. Most impressive is that he's always thinking of others and how he can make our community a better place. He has this spirit of others first, whether it's in the classroom or cleaning the greenhouse, mowing lawns, weed whacking, clearing leaves, or sawing up a fallen tree across the street from me. Those of you lucky enough to have him as a teacher or interacting with him on campus know exactly what I mean. Mr. Biani gets up every morning and he thinks, how can I do my best by my students? How can I teach this student how to be a better reader? How do I help this student be a better writer? And how can I reach this student where they are and bring them as far as they can go? Some of Mr. Biani's finest teaching moments involve his stories. You may think that they're just stories, but they all involve valuable advice about life or English instruction. When he arrives with his homemade banana bread for his classes, yes, you are eating delicious banana bread. But more importantly, however, you're learning how to write. That it's a process, just like a recipe, and no step may be skipped. In case you think the lessons are only important now, that can't be further from the truth. Alumni from recently and long ago still talk about their experiences with Mr. Biani. Dylan, a PG from the class of 2019, wrote, "I was looking at the Suffield Instagram page the other day, and I saw a picture of Memorial surrounded by foliage and blue skies, and it brought back some very special memories of you and your class. I wanted to write and let you know that you were right. Your recipe for a well-written essay has served me well this semester. It's incredibly rewarding to feel proud of my writing, and I owe much of that to you. I can't tell you how much I enjoyed English last year. Classic adventure novels opened my eyes to some very powerful reads, and it inspired me to pick up a book once in a while this summer. Thank you for all you did for me. I can write because of you." Beth, from the class of 2001, who's a teacher herself, reached out to Mr. Biani a few years ago to say, "As another school year ends and my students say goodbye and thank you, it's so hard not to think of my own inspirations who pushed me and provided words of wisdom. I think of you often because you taught me to make the best of anything and everything, even if things don't go as planned. I'm so grateful to have had you as a teacher. It's great to have a teacher that inspires you to do your best in their class, but it's very rare to have a teacher who inspires you years and years later. I hope one day I'll inspire and touch a student much as you have done for me. Thank you, Mr. Biani. You continue to be one of my most inspiring and favorite teachers." Or when Ed, from the class of 1987, wrote to me asking that his son, who would be a 9th grader in the fall, please have Mr. Biani as a teacher. He said, "I'm sending my son to Suffield for him to have Brett Biani. Brett Biani changed my life." Think also about this year's senior speeches and how often a student thanked Mr. Biani for pushing them but encouraging them all at the same time. Mr. Biani is a master teacher, a once-in-a-lifetime type of teacher who's teaching young people English and, more importantly, lessons about how to be a good person. Lastly, as Mr. Sullivan noted to me, he's also the model of flexibility and support. When the English team began talking about new avenues in the curriculum, Mr. Biani astutely noted texts that don't work today and was open to new ideas like the house in the Cerulean Sea. It was terrific to see and feel his excitement about exploring this book with his freshmen. Mr. Biani shared with me some of the amazing projects done by the freshmen. Thank you, great job. Our early morning memorial crowd won't be the same without Brett Biani blasting his movie tunes or golden oldies while watching Ms. Lopez and I try out some of our dance moves down the hallway. We'll miss your inspirational quotes to start the day and your devotion to our students by keeping us all focused on why we are here, for students and their growth. On a more personal note, you and Molly were two of the first people to welcome me to campus, and your infinite pride in the school made me feel comfortable and that I'd be okay here. Little did I know that soon an unusual circumstance would arise and I would work more closely with you as you stepped up to once again become the department chair. From the faculty and students, thank you, Brett. You epitomize why Suffield Academy is a family, and you're an outstanding educator. Thank you.
Brett Biani's career as an educator at Suffield Academy has been incredible. Brett's a graduate of the Suffield class of 1970. He was a dorm proctor and a key part of 2 undefeated state champion wrestling teams that also earned Western New England titles. Brett was a state champion himself at the 167 weight class. This was a period when wrestling captivated Suffield Academy. The home meets were in what is now called Kinney Court, with packed stands and all the lights out except for a spotlight over the mat. Brett was a star of one of the nation's top wrestling teams. After graduating from University of Connecticut and working in the business world, Brett joined the Suffield Academy faculty in 1980. He was English department chair for 10 years and actually offered me my first job at Suffield as an English department member in 1992. Thank you, Brett. Who would have guessed we'd be here together today? Brett has been recognized for his teaching and coaching skills with awards including the Richter Award for Excellence in Teaching and the Premier Kinney Coaching Prize. Brett was Suffield Academy's head wrestling coach for 18 years, coached riflery for 19 years, and has coached throwing events for the track and field program throughout his 42-year career on the faculty. As you know, Brett is married to Suffield Academy history teacher and coach Molly Biani. They met here, and their two daughters are Suffield graduates, Grace Biani, class of 2012, and Caroline Biani, class of 2014. Simply put, Brett's dedicated, encouraging, and inspirational teaching profoundly impacted many Suffield Academy students. As a faculty member, he has made a historic, truly significant impact on the school and on the lives of others. As you know, leadership is among our very highest areas of emphasis at Suffield. We define it in two broad ways. First, being a person of integrity who wants to make a positive impact on society and has the skills and habits to achieve this goal. And second, being a fundamentally good person, striving to be truthful and honest, doing the right thing even when others are not looking, and serving others. Mr. Biani beautifully fills both of these definitions. He has helped hundreds of students as scholars and people, and he has enhanced our community through his character and commitment. I am very pleased to present this prestigious award to Mr. Brett Biani.
Good afternoon to all of you. This is overwhelming, and excuse me, I'm emotional. This is something that's really, really special to me, and I want to thank the speakers who just gave me such wonderful words. There will be a little redundancy because I did not know what they were going to say, so a couple of things might be a little similar. But I thought I would start today by asking a question. I thought the logical question to begin with is, why did I attend Suffield Academy? I was a baby boomer along with hundreds of other children growing up in Milford, Connecticut, and all of a sudden a whole group of people, hundreds of them, started hitting high school age around the same time, and we only had two high schools in Milford, Connecticut. One was Milford High and one was Jonathan Law, and I suddenly found myself in classes that were totally overloaded with students, and the school was placed on academic probation, and my parents suddenly decided it was time to do something special for us, which was to open up the possibility of going to the prep school world. My brother, a year older, decided on Wilbraham Academy. And in the next year, I had 5 choices, and I narrowed it down to 2, Westminster or Suffield Academy. And maybe it was the brand new swimming pool they had just added to Suffield Academy, or the beautiful new resting room, or maybe it was the really nice cottage dorms across the way. I chose Suffield Academy. So I arrived in the fall of 1966, and I moved into Bissell House. That's the little cottage dorm that's right next to the tennis courts. And I was immediately welcomed by David Rockwell. And he made me feel instantly like part of his young family. And I also had my proctors right across the hall from me. And one of them was a junior by the name of Randy Osgood. And he became a role model for me. He was a junior proctor, he was an excellent athlete, and he was just a really kind and cheerful person, and I knew I wanted to be like Randy Osgood. I also met my freshman English teacher, David Hilliard. And David would not only be my English teacher freshman year, but he would also be my freshman and junior year wrestling coach in JV wrestling. And I began a friendship with him that was very special. Sophomore highlights included winning a JV state championship in wrestling. Yes, we actually had a JV state tournament right here at Suffolk. And I also made the varsity track team as a sophomore. Junior year, however, was even more special. Like my role model, Randy, I was chosen to be a dorm proctor, and I made the varsity wrestling team. That year, Frank Farino arrived as the new wrestling coach. He had just earned second place in the NCAA Division I tournament wrestling for Doug Parker at Springfield College. We soon realized that we had the best wrestling coach in New England at Suffolk Academy and also the toughest coach in the league. Under Farino, our team earned a third consecutive undefeated state championship title. The top 4 weight classes were juniors. Jim Kristofic won the individual title in the 160-pound weight class. And as Mr. Can just mentioned, I earned the title at 167. Howard Benedict won it at 177, and Keith Callahan was runner-up at the unlimited position. I was also chosen as the co-captain for the following year with Mr. Benedict. In our senior year, Coach Farino gave the 4 of us a nickname. We suddenly were no longer just the upper 4 wrestlers, we were now called Murderers Row. If any match came down to all 4 of us having to win to secure a victory, we made it happen. The wrestling team went on to earn its 4th undefeated championship season my senior year. Of note, I did not see the Suffield wrestling team lose a meet in my 4 years. And it did not stop its winning ways after I left. Suffield's wrestling team was undefeated for 10 consecutive seasons and made Sports Illustrated as one of the premier wrestling programs in the United States. I also had an outstanding track season where I was competing in shot, discus, and javelin. I have other great memories from my senior year. Between junior year and senior year, David Hilliard married the headmaster's daughter, and David asked me to be one of his proctors senior year. Being his proctor strengthened a friendship with David and his new wife, Ginny Severance Hilliard, that has lasted to the present day. Another highlight was taking geology with David Sawyer. And I have to make sure you understand, this was not rocks for jocks. One of the nicknames they give geology in college. It was a really challenging course, and what I loved most were the field trips. In the spring of my senior year, right about this time, our teacher took a handful of us to the Berlin Turnpike. And that's a road about 5 miles south of here, about 5 miles south of Hartford. And we stopped at a construction site of a future pool company. And when we got stopped, we saw the frame and foundation building. He took us around to the right, and the workers had uncovered a large area of shale ledge. We were given these wooden wedges, hardwood wedges that were about 3 inches long by about 1 inch wide. It's like a doorstop. And we were given masonry hammers. And we went to this ledge area, and we took our little wedges, and about 1 foot apart, we found this fissure in the rocks, and we started hammering these between the layers of shale. And we were able to lift off the whole upper level of shale. And in the process had gone back hundreds of millions of years in Connecticut history. And then we were amazed. We began seeing them. Dinosaur footprints, very faint in the rock. So we carefully went down another thin layer and put our wedges in and chipped away. And when you took another several million years away or 50 million years away, we started, the tracks were even more clear. So we took another layer very carefully away, and we suddenly realized that we were looking at the clearest images of the footprints. And we knew we were over 200 million years back, and that we were seeing the original footprints of the Connecticut Valley dinosaurs. And then we took our hammers and very carefully cut around these tracks, and we brought our treasures back to Suffield Academy. So if you ever walk through the front door of the science building, you look at the glass cages to the right, you will see those footprints we brought back 52 years ago to Suffield Academy. I wonder if you ever had your parents ask you, what did you do in school today? And you said, you know, we discovered dinosaur tracks. We unearthed them and we brought them back to school. What a memory that would have been. So just in case you have never seen one of these, I happen to have one right in front of me. So this is so 52 years ago. I'll quickly tell you an aside to this. I was so impressed with this, my family the next weekend went down there and we uncovered 14 more and brought those back to Milford. My younger brother, for his Eagle Scout project, community service project, gave 1 to 13, one to each of the primary schools in Connecticut. And my parents, a few years ago, took the last one we had and donated it to the Peabody Museum in New Haven. And they were all so very pleased to receive them. Another highlight of my senior year was having Mason Nye as my senior teacher. He instilled an incredible passion for me in all types of literature. And then I rang the bell 4 times at graduation and never expected what would happen later. As you heard, I went to UConn, was an English major with a history minor, and after graduating, ended up getting a job in an optical laboratory in Westchester County, New York, and worked there for almost 5 years while living in Stamford, Connecticut. So I will ask the next question. Why did I become a teacher at Suffolk Academy? And I don't know when it started, but I started believing in Kismet, that things happen for a reason. And something made me return for my 10th year reunion and sit down at dinner with my senior teacher, Mason Nye. And we started talking about teaching and the clear love he still had for teaching English and being a coach and member of the Suffolk faculty. And later I talked with Dave Summey, and he told me there was an opening in the English department and I should apply. The next weekend I interviewed, and 2 weeks afterwards, after that reunion, accepted a job teaching 2 sections of freshman English and 2 sections of junior English, coaching wrestling and track, and being a dorm parent in Fuller Hall. I was 28 years old when I began teaching in the fall of 1980. I quickly learned that teachers are made, not born. Sorry. I had to learn quickly or relearn grammar and punctuation rules, paragraphing and essay writing skills, as well as a great variety of poems, plays, and works of fiction, and I also had to learn how to teach. Thankfully, I also had master teachers who are now my colleagues and mentors. They included Mason Nye, Gordy Glover, Brad Gooch, Ed Banks, and Joe Connors. They gave me notes, they answered my questions, and they passed on their expertise. I also went back to school to get my master's degree from Wesleyan, and I studied the styles and techniques of my teachers and increased my breadth of knowledge of all types of literature. During the 1980s, I discovered how much I truly loved being a teacher and sharing my passion and knowledge with my students. I also had the valuable opportunity to coach alongside Frank Frano for 2 years before taking over as the head coach. And I had the same experience with working with my past track coaches, Gordy Glover and Dave Rockwell, which began my long career as a track coach. Again, why do I believe in Kismet? In 1988, something happened that would change my life forever. Suffolk Academy hired a new teacher from Smith College. Molly Hennihan arrived as a new history teacher and head coach of the varsity field hockey program and head coach of girls varsity lacrosse. Like my teacher, David Hilliard, who met his wife at Suffolk Academy, the future Mrs. Biani had just walked into my life. The 1990s decade began. The administration asked me to serve as the English department chair, a position I would hold for the next 10 years, until I stepped down to give someone else the opportunity to have that role. On March 13, 1993, the Bianis were married at the Second Baptist Church across the street from the school. And we had a reception in Brewster. Well, what was called the storm of the century dropped 2.5 feet of snow on our wedding day. In 1994, we had our daughter Grace, and in 1995, we had our second daughter Caroline. Many years later, I had the honor of teaching both of my daughters in my English 2 honors course. The years seemed to race by. In the late 1990s, I switched from coaching wrestling to coaching rifle with the legendary coach, Anya McCarthy. Our school joined the Connecticut High School League, and we were undefeated state champions for 7 years in a row, from 2009 to 2016. This was a really special time in my career, as Mr. Can announced. In 2001, Suffolk Academy presented me the Donald P. Richter Award, Excellence in Teaching. And in 2012, I received the Kitty Prevere Coaching Award. And the Connecticut Rifle and Revolver Association named me Outstanding Coach of the Year in 2017. Meanwhile, our daughters graduated from Suffield. And then Grace graduated from Washington Lee. And Grace, I know you're with me in thought and watching this from Salt Lake City, Utah. And Caroline from Rhode Island School of Design. Meanwhile, my wife and I continue to share our love of teaching and coaching. But as Robert Frost said, nothing gold can stay. Hey, I'm an English teacher. I had to throw a little poetry into this. When I entered my 42nd year, I made one of the toughest decisions of my life, to retire as a faculty member. My final question, why did I stay at Suffield Academy for 42 years? Yes, it was the love of teaching, but it was also wonderful, wonderful colleagues and friends. In the early years, it was the Kidneys, the Preveres, the Samis, the DeSalvos, the McCulloughs, the Newmans, and Bill Scott. In the later years, it was the Pattersons, the Regals, the Goodwins, the Baileys, friends like the Fiedler family, my academy neighbors, my English department members, and especially two of the finest teachers and people I have had the privilege to teach alongside of and be friends with for 42 years, Andy Lowe and David Godin. It was also the wonderful people in the dining hall and in maintenance, in the school offices, and the administrators that all made this a special community. And it was Charlie Can and the board that redesigned and rebuilt the school and made it more beautiful every year. They made it really easy to feel proud that we were part of an institution like Suffield. There is one final reason why I stayed at Suffield for 42 years. In the audience today are close to 150 students and athletes that I have taught and coached for the last 4 years. It is the comments that I have received from students and even their parents, sometimes during the year, sometimes right after graduation, and sometimes years later telling me how I impacted their lives. It is a student like Henry White, who I taught this past fall in English 5. Where are you, Henry? Henry told, a couple of weeks into the course, Henry told me he wanted to excel as an English student and wanted to earn grades in the A range. Henry paid attention to my instruction, showed me rough drafts, edited and revised his papers, and finished the term with some absolutely well-crafted essays that earned solid A grades. A couple of months ago, Henry mentioned that I was one of the best teachers he has had, and not just at Suffield Academy, but in his career. Thank you, Henry. And now some thank yous to end the talk. First and most important, to my parents, Edmund and Audrey Biani. You made this all possible by sending me to Suffield Academy and also instilling in me a work ethic and moral character that allowed me to thrive in the school. My wife Molly, and my daughters Grace and Caroline, your love and support never wavered. It would not have been the same experience without you by my side. My siblings, who have always been proud of what I was doing with my life, and especially my sister, who sent her son Garrison to Suffield, class of 2001. Thank you to my fellow colleagues, the school staff, and head of school, Mr. Can, and the other administrators. And finally, thank you to the board members and the selection committee that chose me as a recipient of this year's Alumni Leadership Award. I feel truly blessed to have been part of the Suffield Academy community for 46 years. It has been a very, very special lifetime. So thank you all so very much. if you want to look at the dinosaur track closely afterwards, you can.
I would ask just for some people to stay behind for some photos with Brett. Could the members of our English department faculty please remain, as well as Mrs. Biani, and last, all of Mr. Biani's students from this year. Thank you, everyone, and have a great day. You are dismissed.